you ever felt like you're your own worst enemy? Have you ever felt like you're standing in your own way? In our journeys through life, we often stumble upon the patterns that hold us back, preventing us from reaching our full potential. Today, let's dive deep into the art of self-discovery, understanding the intricate web of self-sabotage and learning how to break free. Hello everyone, my name is Hepzibah and you are welcome to this empowering video on how to stop self-sabotage. At one point or the other, we all have had patterns that has held us back. However, what's most important is recognizing and addressing them, especially as that is key to personal growth. The first step towards overcoming self-sabotage is acknowledging it. If you find yourself stuck in negative patterns, know that you are not alone. And remember, this journey is about growth, self-love, and embracing the beautiful potential within you. But first, what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage occurs when people hinder their own success. That means you're literally standing in your own way. It's a combination of two words, self and sabotage. Sabotage is when you try to stop something from happening. Now, self before sabotage means that you are the one stopping that thing from happening. So you're literally like your own enemy. You are literally like your own self's enemy. That is self-sabotage. Now, and it's literally like you're standing in your own way. While it seems surprising, a number of people undermine their own good intentions and long-term goals. When people take these destructive steps, their harmful behavior can negatively impact nearly every aspect of their lives, from their health to their finances, to their relationships, their career, and generally their overall well-being. Self-sabotage wears many masks. It's masked in procrastination, self-doubt, perfectionism, and all of these patterns create a cycle of negativity, making us feel stuck. But fear not, for in understanding these behaviors, we find the power to change them. So you're wondering how or in what ways or forms we exhibit in self-sabotage. I'll give several examples because I've also been guilty of sabotaging myself in the past. But because I've learned how to know my triggers and also identify those patterns, I'm better able to stop myself from stopping myself. So let's look at some examples. Or you know within you that you're supposed to lose some weight, and which is great. And then you decide that, okay, yeah, I want to lose weight. Sign up for a gym or aerobics membership because you sense that extra accountability will help keep you motivated. For the first few days you show up early, and then by the third day you start giving excuses of body aches, or you start giving excuses of work overload, and then you stop showing up. You start by gradually withdrawing, giving this excuse or that, and then you stop withdrawing. In fact, I heard that most people that sign up for gym memberships do not maximize or use their gym memberships, and that's self-sabotage. Another form of self-sabotage can come when you know that you often get to work late, and then you make plans to get up early to do all the chores or do whatever things you want to do the next morning. You stay up watching TV after dinner. You stay up so much that you literally go past your bedtime, and then you wake up late the next morning. That's a form of self-sabotage. Or you understand that from your house to your place of work is about this hours or minutes. It takes you about this hours or minutes to get to work. But then you always leave the house late, despite knowing that you do not have control over traffic. That is self-sabotage. Again, let's also take self-sabotage in the area of finances. You know that you are supposed to keep a portion of your income, possibly for a rainy day fund or an opportunity fund, like I like to call it. However, you do not do that because every month you seem to always have seemingly important things that always takes your money away. You lack that discipline. That again is self-sabotage. Or you're supposed to apply for something, you talk yourself out of it. Some of us talk ourselves out of great and amazing opportunities. You talk yourself out of a great or an amazing opportunity, or you talk yourself procrastinate your way out of something. That again is self-sabotage. There are different patterns associated with self-sabotage. One of the most essential steps in identifying self-sabotaging behaviors is to develop self-awareness. So the question is, how aware of yourself are you? Being self-aware helps a great deal. I also recommend that you take some personality tests. Once you know your personality, then you know the weaknesses and the strengths of your personalities, and you are better able to work to your strengths and weaken your weaknesses. What are the other patterns or behaviors that might be self-sabotage in disguise? One, perfectionism. For many of us who are perfectionists, we are so analysis driven that it leads to paralysis. Striving to be perfect might sound like a good thing, but often gets in the way of being effective. Perfectionists usually get stuck on projects. You're stuck writing. I used to be like that. I'm sometimes like I'm really much of a perfectionist. I want everything to go smooth and fine. But sometimes I realized that doing that, I get stuck in the details and I do not get to work. So it's also a form of self-sabotage. Perfectionists also tend towards all or nothing thinking. So they tend to be harsh on themselves, want to give out their best, but then sometimes it's about showing up consistently as opposed to having it all perfect every time. So you want to check that and be sure that you're not exhibiting any perfectionist traits that might eventually be a form of self-sabotage. Moving on, another pattern or behavior of self-sabotage is moderation. People who struggle with moderation often have difficulty setting boundaries. They find themselves always saying yes to everything, even when it's not in their capacity. And so they give so much of themselves to people at the detriment of their own personal goals. It often leads to self-sabotage. Again, another behavior that is self-sabotage in masking or is disguised as self-sabotage is procrastination. Everyone is guilty of procrastination now and again, especially when it's a project that you don't really want to do. But putting off your responsibility can actually indicate a lack of self-confidence. When you procrastinate, you prevent yourself from having the time and the resources you need to do your best work. Procrastination often goes in the hand with perfectionism. Yes, because you want it to be perfect, you sit down and you continue to procrastinate. I can talk about this because I have also been in that loop. And because I've learned that it's a form of self-sabotage, I'm consciously making the effort to say, you know what, even though this one is not perfect, I'm going to do it, even though I don't have all my facts, because that's one thing with perfectionists and procrastinators. It's always in the disguise of not having all our facts, and then we keep, disguising and pushing what we are supposed to do. Another behavior or pattern that is self-sabotage in disguise is lack of communication. You know you need help with a project, but you do not reach out. You're running late, but you decide not to send a text. You're not communicating with people or those involved. Now, communication is a regular part of our lives, both in and out of the workplace, even in your relationships. In your everyday activity, communication is important. When we resist communication, it is often due to self-criticism because you're hard on yourself and we worry that by asking for help, we are highlighting our failures, right? Unfortunately, the lack of communication can be damaging to our relationships. Even worse, it can create a fertile ground for imposter syndrome because no one knows what you're dealing with. You live in the fear of being found out. What are the symptoms of self-sabotage? The signs of self-sabotage can be very subtle. They're so subtle that we do not know them, but they are inherent and they keep affecting the decisions and the actions, the decisions that you make and the actions that you take, but at work, in your personal life. And the thing about self-sabotage is it affects every area of your life, not just one particular area. You would find out that you're literally self-sabotaging in almost every area of your life. So what are the symptoms of self-sabotage? Refusing to ask for help, undermining your goals and values, substance abuse, overspending or overdoing in a lot of other ways. Also, constantly seeking approval, reluctance to speak up for yourself, controlling or micromanaging behavior. picking fight or starting conflicts with colleagues and loved ones, setting goals that are too low or too high, avoiding or withdrawing from people, negative self-talk and extreme criticism, making excuses or blame shifting. Sometimes self-sabotage can even show up in when you do not take responsibility for whatever actions, your actions and your inactions. I think it's important to always take responsibility for your actions and for your inactions. Now, how do we stop sabotaging yourself? One, develop self-awareness. It's important to know yourself. Take a temperament test, take a personality test, take an I5 test. All these tests are available online. Most of them are free, although you might get, maybe to get more intricate details, you might need to pay. But Google them and take this test. When you understand your personality, you become aware of yourself. You can then know yourself. I recall a time I used to exhibit a particular behavior. I didn't know why I was always acting that way until after I took a personality test. When I took the test and I knew my personality, I didn't figure that, oh, this is how people of my personality would act. And that was what was influencing my actions. And because I became aware of myself, I started putting measures in place to control me from self-sabotaging. So it's important to know yourself. The second thing is write it out. Write it out. Journaling helps identify recurring patterns and complaints. Share these thoughts. Now, I also say that sometimes you might need to seek more help. But again, the good thing about videos like this is you get to learn. You can possibly conduct a self-analysis of yourself, right? So write it out. What are those behaviors? What are those patterns that you have seen? For someone, I like to bring up my point. For someone who is careless with his or her finances, for example, if you keep a money diary, a money journal, keep it for the next 3 months. What happens is, at the end of that 3 months, sit down and look at your patterns. Now, if you have taken the personality test and I talked about in the place of self-awareness, you then see that, okay, for your personality type, this is it. You tend to be impulsive. You have seen it in your money journal that, oh, you have been impulsive over time. Now, the next thing is now say, what measures are you going to create? So what leads me to my third point is create a plan and act. Address self-sabotaging thoughts by creating a plan. Implement personal rules like scheduling appointments regardless of doubts to build positive habits. I have a video on building healthy habits. I'll link it up here so you can watch that video. I believe it's going to bless you as well. Now, you take actions and seek support for mentors or coaches, because taking action or seeking support from people that you know you can be accountable to would also help you a great deal in breaking your self-limiting patterns. Now, let me break it down a bit more. If you have noticed that you have a self-sabotaging behavior, I would use 2 examples, one in your health and the other one would be in your finance. You didn't understand that. The moment you understand that, okay, these are the reasons why I stress eat or I eat junks, you're now able to take action. You create a plan and say, okay, I will not engage in comfort food, or I would exercise, or I will do this to help my health. I will take supplements, or I will take, just that you now begin to have a plan to say, okay, this is my plan based on what your awareness and writing out, and then now you've created a plan, and now you have created a plan towards it. Now let's also use the example of finances. You become self-aware that you are an impulsive buyer. You buy a lot of things on impulse. Now, once you realize that you buy a lot of things on impulse, you are able to understand why. Maybe you're extroverted, maybe you're a people pleaser, maybe you just like to be extremely happy and you like to spend every time you have money, or maybe it's from your background. These are several things that you would find out from self-awareness, why you do so many things, why you act the way you do. Now, once you've gotten all of that, you will then write it out and say, okay, if I have been an impulsive buyer or an impulsive spender, you need to be able to trace it and say, okay, I've been impulsive at so and so at this time and that time. It will help when you write it out. So when you write it out, you then keep a money journal or a money diary for the next 2 to 3 months. At the end of that 2 to 3 months, you sit down and look at your money patterns. What exactly did you spend money on? Once you have figured out those things that you have spent money on, you then create a plan. Comes to plan B. how to stop self-sabotage. These are practical tips. The third one is how to create a plan and act and say, okay, I have been spending this and this and this. This is what I'm going to do based off of what I have discovered. So you then say, okay, you create a plan and say, okay, my plan henceforth is that every time I collect my salary or every time I have an income, I will share my money into XYZ. And then that way, you have limited resources, or you keep money in this or that account, that you know that once money is in that account, you do not have access to it until a particular time. So let me use myself as an example. I noticed when I did my money journals that I was sometimes an impulsive spender, and I wasn't even always spending on myself, I was spending on other people. So to curb it, I found out that it was important for me to now put a structure around my money. So once I receive money, once I make my income, I share my money into weekly allowances. And I do not have access to that weekly allowance until a particular day of that new week. So because I have now developed the discipline of until this week I will not have access to this money, I found out that I am now able to shrink my giving, my budgeting to my weekly allowances, unlike what I did not know before. Now, the fourth point will be practice mindfulness. So practice mindfulness is the fourth way to stop self-sabotage. How do you practice mindfulness? You practice mindfulness techniques such as meditation, breath work, because all of this helps with it helps to manage difficult emotions and silence the inner critic. This practices enhances self-compassion and aids in breaking down self-sabotaging patterns. Number 5 will be communication. Now, in spite of your fears, you need to be vulnerable. Find people that are trusted, that you can open up to and tell them that this is what I have discovered about myself. These are the things I do that sabotage me. I am deliberately telling you this so that you can, be there for me, keep me accountable, and they can move you forward towards positivity. I would also have a chair or a power circle. Now, when you have a chair or power circle, there is when you feel like you want to shortchange yourself. You can easily open up to these people and they'll tell you, no, Hepzibah, you can go for bigger, you can be more. So you do not have a mediocre circle around you. Even when you want to settle, these people will not allow you to settle. I remember one time I wanted to do a project and I was second guessing myself, and I just discussed with someone, and before I knew what was happening, I received so much push and encouragement. I knew that, I cannot afford to fail on this, and that helped me. And also, the last one I'll share on self-sabotage is silence the critical spirit. We all have that critical spirit in us, that spirit that makes us second guess ourselves or doubt ourselves. Sometimes it's an offshoot of failures that you have had. Thoughts of self-doubt will come, but silence it. And I think that one of the things I do that helps me a lot is I stand before the mirror and I take confessions. Some days not before the mirror, but I constantly have a confession that or an affirmation that I take every time that just helps me or sees me through all of silences the critical spirit. And sometimes just be mindful, just be quiet within you and get it silenced, or open up to someone that is trusted, someone that can help you. A coach, a therapist will also help a great deal. By following these steps, various individuals have empowered themselves to break free from self-sabotaging behaviors, fostering personal growth and achieving their goals. Remember, you have the power within you to overcome self-sabotage. Embrace your worth, comfort your fears, and believe in your capabilities. If you found this video enlightening, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button. Together, we can break free from self-sabotage and step into a future of endless possibilities. Until the next video, stay strong, stay resilient, and never underestimate your potential. Bye bye. God bless you.